So my task was to talk about how recreation affects and impacts the county as a whole, and what was the economic impact to recreation in Gila County. And some of those things are kind of hard to capture, because I'm not sure how you capture the value of open space, and yet I know a lot of folks live here because we like the open space. We didn't, we live, down in North Phoenix. So that's kind of a hard one to capture, but some of the things that so I was looking at a report that's on the State Parks website. It was actually written in 2003, but I think it's really applicable to now because of what's commonly called the economic downturn. What I know from county government is that assessed values are matching about what they were in 2004. So what we're doing, collecting funds from the housing values in Gila County are the same as they were 10 years ago. So I'm figuring that a report about recreation opportunities probably mirrors that. I have another report that I was looking at that the Department of Transportation did specific to boating. And one of the interesting things off of it is that boating on, mostly Roosevelt, but a little bit on San Carlos Lake, has dropped by half since 2006. So the number of visitors that were here in 2006 and the number of visitors that were here in 2012 are half as many. So that's my other clue that maybe a 2003 study is probably pretty accurate to how our current economy is. When we go back and talk about land ownership and how many million acres of the forest, at the county level, the numbers that I memorize, 55% of our county is forest land. Another 40% is tribal land, and different and smaller numbers of recreation happen there. So our recreation happens on the 55% that is federal. There's a 1% state and there's 4% private. So at the county level, when we talk about property values and taxes, it comes off 4%. We have payment in lieu of taxes. We have some other things that the federal government assists with at the county level. But the bulk of our folks live on 4% of our land. And that has effects for the folks that live here. Some other things on this study talked about the direct economic impact in millions of dollars to Gila County for recreation in the big picture is about $125 million, or about $120 million. And that seemed like, dang, that's a lot. But when I go back and look at what they're capturing, they're also capturing that 36% of the households in Gila County are off-highway vehicle users. It seems like a lot, except they're also counting all the four-wheel drives. How many of us in here have a four-wheel drive in front of their house? So they're counting four-wheel drives to four-wheelers to mountain bikes. So they're counting a lot to boats. They're counting lots more than you would typically think. And it has the total impact, when you do the multiplier effect, about $137 million in economic impact for Gila County. Geographical area, not government. There's about 1,300 full-time jobs in Gila County that are directly based on recreation, which has to be on the forest because that's what all the land is, which generates about $22.3 million in salaries. So a lot of our folks, we have about 50,000 people that live in Gila County. A number of us are government employees. But for folks that are building a business on recreation, there's about 1,300 jobs in Gila County that are built on recreation. And the tax revenue, the sales tax revenue is $4.2 million. So there are some, recreation is a driver. Recreation is a driver and an economic engine in Gila County. It would have to be when 55% of our land is forest, where all of Phoenix comes to play. Some other things that I was trying to capture, the average daily expenditure for a boating trip in Arizona is $316. And they figure that that's about $32 million a year for Gila County. So we may only have one big lake, but boy, a lot. And it may be half as many people as were coming 6 or 7 years ago, but it still is an economic impact. It has a positive economic impact in Gila County. So the other place I talked to were our chambers of commerce. Lots of folks come to their local communities and they know exactly where they're going. And they never stop in the Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center. But for those that do, some interesting numbers. About 14,000 a year stop in the Payson Chamber of Commerce. And of those, 70% are looking for a recreation experience out in the woods. The other 30% are looking for the local, antique store, or if there happens to be what do they call it, a festival in town that weekend. 70% are looking for recreation opportunities on the forest. In Globe, Miami, they have about 6,000 visitors come to their visitor center, and of those, about 40% are specifically requesting either hiking or other recreation opportunities in the communities. And in addition, and I didn't find numbers and figures for the monument, but the Natural Bridge in Payson has, and let's hope I captured it here, was about a $2 million economic generator for the Payson area. So lots of folks come to look at our forest that I hold near and dear and to play in. And it doesn't seem fair to not talk about the less than positive impacts from the county's perspective. More road maintenance, more law enforcement. That includes lake patrol, that includes search and rescue when hiker gets lost in the Sarianchus, and more trash and pollution because folks don't always pack out what they pack in. I'm going to call it good unless there are questions about economics and recreation in Gila County.
What were the numbers again on the percentage of people that are out of the 50,000? What's the percentage of people that work in recreation in the county? Is it 3.4% or something?
According to my study, well, when you count 50,000, that's the little kids too.
Okay.
That counts everybody. So first you have to divide it into what are adults. 1,322 jobs are attributed to recreation, full-time equivalent jobs for recreation in Gila County.
Now, would that recreation include the restaurants in Globe and Payson, or just strictly recreation?
Well, I didn't conduct the study. So, full-time and part-time jobs is all it's telling me. It's telling me that the total dollars, the 120 million, does include stopping for food, staying in a hotel, stopping at the local grocery store. My sense as I read through this report was that the 1,300 jobs would be directly related to recreation. And that would include everything from the local Polaris dealer. It counts those kind into there. All right.